Signed into our sign-in sheet. This gentleman right here is going to try to make it around to you, so if you would just raise your hand and let him acknowledge that. I think we have a few towards the back. But I'm going to begin. And my name is Kyle McCarthy. I'm a career advisor at Rochester Works. I'm really excited about this workshop because the best information and ways to learn about success is hearing from those who have had success. And what I would like to do is just run down a few key reminders. We have two of my peers in the back with microphones, and they will probably move to you if you have a question for the panel. So just raising your hand, and what I'll try to do is direct which question should be addressed first. The other thing is I'm going to ask the panel to just be mindful of time so we can facilitate several questions. And this is a great opportunity for you to learn from them, share ideas, and maybe ask some of the challenges or changes in what their interpretation of job search and strategy is now that they're sitting employed. And what I want to do is stop talking and let the panel start by maybe introducing your name, where you're from, and how did you find the opportunity that you are currently working for? Kelly, thank you.
Okay, hi, I'm Kelly. I'll try to talk about it. I'm Kelly Goodnight. I'm originally from Rochester. I have a background in accounting, and I'm working for Conifer Realty right now, which is a property management company that manages low-income and senior living household. And I've been there since September of last year.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Bigelow. I'm a senior manufacturing engineer at Harris RF, where I support Vinyl Radio Build on their weekend shift. So I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 12-hour days, and right now I'm in my weekend. I was laid off in February '09 and was in search for about 15 months. After 11 months in search, I accepted a contract position with a company near Buffalo, so I was doing a 1-hour commute. And then about 5 months later, I landed the direct hire job with Harris. And I just want to mention some of the things that I thought were key during my search. Stay positive. Optimism is a good thing. Persevere. Surround yourself with people who are also positive. You don't want to be with a bunch of negative people because they will suck you down. And be flexible. I mentioned that I support a weekend shift. A lot of us who lost our jobs are older, our kids are grown. You have more flexibility than you may at first think in terms of what you can and can't do with a job. Don't be rigid and think Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Hi, I'm Deborah Cox. I work as an area manager at the Goodyear Dunlop plant in Buffalo. I also work nights and weekends like Chris, and I'm happy to speak with you today.
I'm Jacqueline Melia. I'm the First Impressions team leader at Rochester Works, and I was laid off probably for 8 months before I found this position. And I guess the biggest key for me was looking at what I could have done with my transferable skills. Coming from retail management, going to customer service, that's something that I can do anywhere.
Hello everyone, I'm Ann Johnson. I'm the program director for ACT Rochester, which stands for Achieving Community Targets. It's a program that is community-based information about what's happening in our 7-county area, and it's funded by the United Way and the Community Foundation. In my job search, I found this job by networking. I had been unemployed for 15 months. And one of the challenges was having come from a business and a government background and wanting to get into the nonprofit arena, I had to help with the translation of how my skills could move from one place to another, but I feel like I'm in my perfect job.
Hi, I'm Carol Larson, and some of you in this room know me. I'm a project manager currently working at Center Information Services. I landed my job in May of this year, or I'm sorry, 2010. And I was out of work at the end of September 2010. What I found as my length of my job search continued, I found it was very disheartening to find out there was less and less jobs out there at the time I was looking. So what I did in my job search is I looked at what the employers were looking for, and tried to do something with myself to better myself and put me through that filter, if you will. I went ahead and pursued a project management professional, or PMP certification. Probably got that in April, and the next day I interviewed for the job I'm currently in. I think what was most instrumental was, Chris hit it on the nail on the head. Stay positive, your attitude's everything. Keep with positive people, and do, if you are putting your 40 hours in on a job search, do take a break every once in a while, because it's mentally, draining.
Thank you. I'm going to start out by one question, and then we'll begin to facilitate from outside. Going back from the first time that you learned you were going to be unemployed to now, what would be an area that you would spend more time on right away, different from maybe what you were experiencing at that time? What strategies or time, in preparation for the job search, would you put more effort into?
I can take that.
Okay.
I think I probably would have spent a little bit more time networking. That was probably the one thing that I did the least of, and probably should have done more. I did join a few networking groups, but my natural tendency is to sort of stay in the background and not be the first person to speak, although I'm doing it now. But I think that's what I needed to work out more on, because I think once I got comfortable and started letting people know that I was looking, but I wasn't desperate, it made it much more easier, and it was a lot easier to develop relationships with people when it wasn't like you were just panicked to try and find a job. It was trying to get to know people. And I also had a lot of good support in the fact that through Career Navigator, I stayed with a group, and we met weekly. We were very good about doing that, and it was a really big help because they were people going through the same thing. They celebrated my successes. They also were the ones that said, okay, don't worry about it. You had a bad week. Let's move forward. What do we need to do to fix it? And that made a big difference. So I think I would have gotten more involved with groups like that instead of just sort of trying to figure out on my own how to find a job.
Thank you.
I just want to counterpoint on that. Job search is all about balance and putting your time in the right places and in the right percentages. When I jumped into it, I went into the networking whole hog, and ultimately had to back off some of my networking activities so I had more time to be applying to positions. So there is a balance there. The networking is important, everybody will tell you that, and it is vitally important. But you have to maintain that balance.
And I do networking as well. I will say though, the types of networks that you get involved in are important. What I tried to do, and I did, is get involved in professional type networks. So I helped launch the Rochester chapter of the International Institute for Business Analysis, and got involved in the committees there. When I wasn't working, I was able to demonstrate my ability to accomplish work. Number one, gave me exposure to other individuals that were working in companies and saw the type of work I was able to produce. It also fulfilled a sense of productivity within myself that I was missing while I was not working, and frustrated, if I were to get frustrated because I wasn't landing anything or finding anything applicable.
For me, it was really looking at what I had been doing for the last 25 years and getting over it. I was very successful, traveled, worked 70, 80-hour weeks. And when I first landed, I was in that mode. I didn't want to give up the money. And when I finally looked at myself and what was important, I'm now in a situation where I kind of can control my time, and the money is significantly lower, but I'm probably as happy as I've been. But it took me a long time. In fact, I had an exploratory interview with the person who's currently my boss, 2 years before the job opening was up, and at that point I was all about making money, where could he send me, etc. Then I ended up recycling back, meeting him again, and looking at a job that was a great use of my skills and making a difference, but at a far less amount of money, and I've changed my lifestyle. And so that was hard for me, and I would do it different if I could go back, but it's hard.
I guess a lot of these points are the same for myself. I was somebody that kind of stood back and didn't get involved in networking the way I feel like I should have. You know, just getting out there, meeting new people even helps you in your job in that sense. You're meeting people every day. So making those contacts, you know, you never know who is going to be a contact for you. Something else I did for myself was I needed to improve some of my computer skills. I took advantage of the Elevation America that was there. A lot of opportunities at Rochester Works that helped me as well as far as the workshops. I was part of Career Navigator, and yeah, I think just having a network of friends around you is, you know, the support that gets you through.
I have to be honest, I can't really think of anything I would do different. My job search, I actually tried to use it as a learning experience. I mean, you can't, you're there, and I didn't choose to be there, so I figured I would learn everything I could about job search and everything I could about networking, and I'm not going to say I absolutely enjoyed the process, but I tried to enjoy meeting people and enjoy learning. There is so much here in the Rochester area to help you in your job search. There's many free workshops. All the networking groups are free. I mean, if you have to go through the process, at least, you know, try and enjoy while you're going through the process. The funny thing is, I have to say, in my job search, I met every one of these people on the panel in my networking at one point. So I would encourage you to, you know, if you have to go through a process, pick something that you like about it and concentrate that and enjoy on it. If you like volunteer work, find a place where you can make a difference and do some of that, because you do need that positive feedback. You're not necessarily going to get it in your job search, so you do need to find something that you can have positive every day. And for me, a lot of it was volunteer work and networking.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have a question? Start with Joe.
Quick observation: we have twice as many women in the audience as we do men, and 5 times as many women as men on the panel. Do you think there's the hope that there's better employment for women in the current environment, or is it kind of open field? Do you find as many new employees where you are that are
Not where I work.
no?
Yeah. I'll answer that if you like.
Okay.
At least from what I read, this has been a very hard recession on men in particular, and especially men in your age group. I do think that there is ageism out there. I experienced it. I also experienced someone telling me that I wasn't qualified for a job because I was a woman. So you cannot listen to people and what they think about you or your qualifications if it's negative. You just chalk that one up and say, okay, that's not a place I'm going to be working. So I do think that if you're a man, there's a job for you out there. I do think you're going to have to just be persistent, and you might have to change something. I know, for example, I expanded the geography of my job search, and I expanded my working hours in order to land. That's what I needed to do in order to continue to work in manufacturing. You also have to look at the industry you're in. There's a lot less manufacturing in this area. It's very competitive. Another person that started with me is an Annapolis graduate, and he has much experience, just like I did. And so he and I both have talked about it. We went through a training together, and both of us agreed that being flexible and being willing to work those off hours made a difference in landing our positions.
Just another comment on the whole flexibility thing. I know I mentioned that before. I've been involuntarily laid off for an extended time, a couple of times now in my career, and both times the positions I took to get back in the workforce were off shift. The first time I accepted a position as a second shift engineer, and this time as a weekend shift or third shift engineer. So just wanted to share that.
If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. I'll ask a question. A lot of this seems to be on maintaining positive attitude. I'd love to know, maybe from each panelist, you know, what are some exercises that you could share with the audience, things, workshops, maybe outside of just the career search, that helped you maintain a healthy lifestyle and a positive attitude and, you know, be able to move forward?
Well, I got involved in an organization that does Braille transcription, and for me it was helpful because it was very interesting to do. I was helping a group of individuals, but it was also a good conversation starter. So when I was nervous about meeting somebody in a networking event, I could throw out the fact that I was learning how to do Braille transcription, and people are always interested in that. So it helped. I think for me, what changed through the whole 15 months that I was looking was that I became less panicked and more relaxed as I started to do more things that were not really related to job search. And I think it helped when I went into interviews because I was much more relaxed. I wasn't nervous. I didn't feel like I had to put on a performance to get whatever the position was. And when I went in for the interview that I had at the position where I landed, it was much more relaxing. It was more of a conversation than an actual interview. And I think that helped a lot. I think for me it was just being not so nervous and focused about the job, and it was just saying who I was and what I wanted was important to me.
Kyle, you were saying things unrelated to the job search?
Oh, how'd you stay positive?
Or, yeah, I mean, my hard skill set for what I do was in pretty good shape. So I found myself seeking out training in things that I needed to know to advance my job search. I took a class in networking through a local woman who provides that sort of training that helped me a lot. I'm an engineer. Engineers tend to be introverted. I'm an extroverted engineer, but you know, an extroverted engineer is, by societal norms, probably still an introvert. So I really had to work. It was tough for me. I feel at this point, you know, I've gotten over all of that kind of fear. I can walk into a 500-person room and just start meeting people. But it was something I pushed myself to do. It was well outside my comfort zone. And then the other thing is, in the 14, 15 years I had been out of the job market, how you look for a job changed dramatically. And I think we've all experienced that. One of the things that I had to brush up on was all of the social media tools. I was already active in LinkedIn, but I had never looked at Facebook. I didn't use Twitter. I'd never even read a blog, let alone written one. And so one of the things that I did was I started to deliberately create a social media presence, an online presence, specifically with the goal so that recruiters and people out there could find me if they started to Google for me. So, because one of the things I found out the first day I got laid off, I Googled myself and I was somewhere down around page 6. And it was a link to my LinkedIn. And that was the only mention of me, Chris Bigelow. There are a bunch of other Chris Bigelows. They filled up the first 5 or 6 pages.
To stay positive, I think you need to do things that you enjoy. So, you know, I would take time out and go to a movie. Or with my husband, we like, especially in the summer, you know, biking along the canal or hiking. I like to camp. So you got to make time for your personal stuff. You know, if you're really tired, it's because you're not putting enough white space in. Or if you're bored, then one thing I'll say, I don't understand how you can get bored in job search because there's so much out there to do and to learn. I know that in my job search I tried to learn about LinkedIn and networking. There are actually networking classes, which I highly recommend, how to do your marketing plan and all that. So, but I think I think it's really important to make time for yourself and for your friends and for your family. As much as possible, if there was no family event. My family is not in the Rochester area, so I would try, every couple of months to get out to see people. So I think that that's important. Just make time for yourself. Take care of yourself spiritually, physically, and I guess also those relationships, maintain those relationships.
Okay, and I guess in what Deborah's saying as well, that was something for myself, realizing in my prior job I didn't take that time for myself. So I had to find a job that I had that life balance. During that time, I took courses that were free at the library. I was even interested at one point of starting my own business, and they had offered something through REOC. A presenter came in at the library and spoke about starting your own business. I learned Spanish on tape. I was sitting in front of the TV trying to teach myself, another language. A bunch of different workshops, whatever I could find that was free out in the community, I was out there and got myself to, get moving, get out of the house, instead of sitting in front of that computer, meeting new people. I was part of the Career Navigator. That was something that was positive for me. Just meeting other individuals that, you don't feel so good about yourself at times. So those people, again, like we had spoke about, finding a network that brings your spirits up, giving each other support.
First thing I did was I defined and admitted that there was a thing called the funk. And so I started to say, well, when am I in it? And what causes it, and what can I do to get the heck out of it? So, first it was like a half day, I didn't want to get out of bed, and then I started figuring out what things I could do to shake it. And so I would exercise. I had the schedule of my favorite exercise classes, and then I would set a goal, because I looked at, when I go back into a job, what I don't want to say, wow, I could have done X and didn't do it. So the view, 11 o'clock in the morning, I would try to work at least a couple times a week around, I can sit and watch the view, because I can't do that when I'm working. And then I also decided that I wasn't going to think every, okay, the job is right around the corner, so I'm not going to look into things that I'm eligible for. So I got my son school lunch program. So here we are in Pittsford School. There aren't that many kids on lunch, and he was so proud of his quarter for lunch. And so it ended up being a good thing, and he started to realize that we had to be careful. When he had his 4 wisdom teeth out, it was free because I had gotten him on Child Health Plus. So I did okay, what can I do for the financials? What can I do to keep myself excited? And then for me, instead of volunteering, I connected with a few people and I wrote speeches. So I wrote speeches for the woman who had won the Athena Award a couple years ago, and then for an executive that I had worked with at Xerox, who ended up being a reference for me in 2 cases. But the thing that energized me the most was when I had to pull an all-nighter to finish a speech, and I was so proud. I hadn't pulled an all-nighter in 20 years, and I'm in my 50s. So you just got to figure out what kind of floats your boat and enjoy it while you're going through the process. So.
Okay, I confess, I too enjoyed watching TV, being able to be at home and watch Dr. Oz faithfully. But then after that, my day started. What did I do? The question was, what did you do outside your job search? I know Chris had put together his blog, and I admired it. So I was so excited to put together my own website with all kinds of links from here to there. It's a self-taught thing, but it was something I did. I did it for myself, for people to find me. I got exposure to myself by talking to Chris on how to do that sort of thing, and it was a great sense of accomplishment. It's out there today, and it brings people to me. So that's one of the many things. I also did that certification class. I took 10 weeks of training for my project management professional, and that took a chunk of time.
One of you mentioned ageism as being a potential issue that arose in your job search. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on that. Was it an overt thing that you encountered, or was it a mental, psychological issue?
It's off. It's off.
Oh. Is this working? Okay, it is working. Great. One of the positions I interviewed for was to be a warehouse manager, and the guy that interviewed me, he goes, you know, it was one of these things where they actually asked you to bring your application and, you know, bring your resume and fill it right in, and the next thing I know, after I fill out the application, I'm talking to the hiring manager. Okay. So we're having what I think is a really good interview, and at one point he looks at me and he goes, you know, only men worked in the warehouse. I've been working in industry for 20 years. I didn't know what to say. I was really mad at myself because I couldn't think of something funny to say. So I said to him, well, that's okay. I'll work with men. But I knew at that point I blew it. You know what I mean? I knew at that point really what he was saying was, I'm uncomfortable because you're not a man. The funny thing is right now I'm working in a warehouse full of men. Okay, so, you know, he was crazy really is what it comes down to, it. He was wrong. But you can't really do anything about that. I will say that it is really important that you present your best self. You know, it's important that you look the best that you can look when you go for an interview. So, you know, like really my hair is white, but it's not, you don't see white hair. So yeah, I colored my hair. I don't think that I would be presenting my best self if I went with white hair. I wear contacts. Now, I chose to wear contacts. For me, actually, it's beneficial on the job because I wear protective glasses, and it's just much easier than the other glasses or wearing the protective glasses over them. But that was also something that I did. You know, the truth of the matter is a lot of people that get laid off they have higher incomes. You know, businesses are making the decisions, and I don't know exactly how they make the decisions, but, you know, I know if I were making a decision and I could get somebody cheaper, I would. So you need to present your best self, and you need to go in looking professional, and you need to be energetic. And I know that that matters. If you present yourself as somebody who's retired, and you even introduce yourself as retired, they're not going to want you. Okay, I wouldn't. If somebody wants to take a job and be retired in the job, I'm not interested. I did ask advice, by the way, of the people that I interviewed with, and one of the things that they said was, you know, not to be canned in your answers, to present your authentic self, and here I am telling you to be young, but they also want you to have the qualifications. So don't apply to jobs that you're obviously not qualified for. On the other hand, I think part of the reason I got the job was I am qualified, maybe even overqualified. And they were looking for people with maturity who could handle, basically I supervise a group of associates. These are guys in a union, and they are very strong-minded and strong-willed. And they wanted somebody who, when they were being given a bunch of flack, wouldn't back down. Okay, well, I've been a mom. You know, when someone's telling me a line, I'm going to say, no, that isn't right. That's not the way we're going to do it, and I'm going to stick by my guns. And that's what they were looking for. So in this case, I think age might have been helpful.
Just a comment on age discrimination and ageism. I've read, and I personally think it's true, that employers aren't concerned that a candidate is too old. What they're concerned with really is that they're no longer relevant. They're not up on technology. They haven't maybe kept up their hard skill set. And so as a mature job seeker, what you need to be doing is convincing the employer that you have all of those skills. So like in my case, you know, and in Carol's case, we created web presence. That's not something we had done before, but it was something we could mention in an interview. You know, that we can create a website, we can create a blog. That's not something that a 20 or a 30-something that might be interviewing you is expecting from a 50-year-old. And they're going to step back, they're going to go, oh, okay. he or she is current. And so I think that's, people in hiring decisions, always what's driving that is fear. The person making the hiring decision does not want to make a mistake. It's going to be a chore for them to sort it out. They're going to look poorly in the eyes of their manager. So fear is what drives their decision. So your goal in the interview is to allay those fears. And that whole technology and the relevance and having the hard skills, that's all part of that. Anybody else?
Thank you. Any questions? Joe?
Once again, curious to get your feedback on what percentage you'd say was online versus in front of or face-to-face with a human. So, what amount of time or percentage did you spend doing things online versus the networking aspect or like your activity here today?
And if I can add on to that, I'd also be interested to also hear what was the primary resource for the position that you're working in on top of what Joe asked?
The position I landed was through a recruiter. So I thought I had more success when I dealt with a lot human than to try and do online. Because you'd send your resume in on a website and you might get the response back, but you didn't know if anybody looked at it. So I felt it was more important to deal with a live human being, and I developed a relationship with this recruiter, talked to him a great deal. He was a member of a professional organization that I belonged to. So I think it came down to more that he knew who I was, he knew what my skills were, and when the right position opened up, he knew who to place in that position. So I think that really helped a lot, that at least I was getting feedback, and when I did go on interviews that he sent me on, it was more, he came back and said, well, here's why they didn't choose you. So I thought it was a big help.
Joe, was the focus of your question in the hiring process or in networking?
Well, really,
I mean, you asked about the time split, but
right, to get to the success that you achieved, did you feel that it was a balance 50-50, that you spent a lot of time online and then you created a web presence, and then at some stage, you spent then more time networking, and that's where you had your success?
the face-to-face networking is always more valuable than the online from the standpoint that, like with us, I can't help you unless I really know what you're looking for. And it's hard to build that relationship, I think, strictly digitally. The online networking types of things are very good at helping you maintain a network and stay in contact.
Well, it's the idea behind, for instance, tonight I have 3 events that I could be attending. I have to pick one. But with a digital presence, it's working for me 24/7. So it's a little bit of that element of, where do you put yourself to be face-to-face with people?
Right. I mean, in my case, I put a lot of time in up front, creating a blog, working up a Twitter account, a bunch of other things that took a lot of time up front to get that set up. And then after that, it was just a matter of maintaining it.
How about your Harris job? How'd you put that? Your Harris job?
My Harris job, I got, Harris was a target company of mine right from the start. In fact, it was a target company even when I was still employed. I had always heard good things about the corporation. And I had applied to numerous positions at Harris and had gotten nowhere with them. But Harris builds radios. They're mostly looking for people with electronics background. I accepted a contract position in Buffalo in January of last year. But in March, after work, I stopped at a Digital Rochester job fair, probably at the Doubletree here in Henrietta, and met up with one of the Harris recruiters, whom I come to know very well in the course of my job search. And she actually approached me. I stopped by the table just to say hi. She approached me and she said, we have 2 jobs open that might be a fit for you. And in the case of those jobs, they were looking for somebody with more of a mechanical background. So you create this network, you plant the seeds out there, and how it comes back, you never know. And then in the interview process, the manager that my boss reports to in the interview says, so I understand you used to work at such and such company. Guy I used to work with joined them. Do you know him? We shared the same office, me and this other guy. We had just had dinner 3 weeks before. on my ride home from the interview, my cell phone rings, and it's my friend who's still at my former company saying, "You'll never guess who just called me." So it is about networking, but it's not necessarily about the forced or contrived networking. You know, sometimes it's luck, it's serendipity.
I haven't told the story of how I got my job, but actually Chris is responsible for me working where I'm working. I met Chris networking at some other thing, I'm not sure. Maybe it was one of your Quimby things, I don't know. But at some point, Chris got to know who I was from my introduction, and he sent me a job that was not the job that I got, but I saw this job. And then the rest is, you know, basically was the skills that I learned, you know, in the various sessions, okay? Really, I didn't have any connections, but when I did get this job, I went back and I reminded Chris about it, and Chris had actually gotten this job from a friend who'd gotten it from a recruiter. So I've connected to both Chris's friend and that recruiter, okay? You know, while you're in this search, you are building your network. Don't let that go, okay? Even now, Chris and I were talking about it before the session. I still go to Digital Rochester events. I try to get to Johnny's. You know, you don't want to put all this time and effort in and only use it because you need a job, okay? You want to. I actually enjoyed meeting all the people that I met. I kind of miss some of them. So in terms of your question, my answer to that would be about 20%. You know, you have to do the online. If you see a job, you go apply to it right away, whether you know somebody or not. You have to plant those seeds. If you don't have any presence, if you're not applying to jobs, there's nothing that's going to come to you. So you have to, every day, you know, take a look and get out there. But I do really believe it's getting known and building your, if Chris didn't know who I was, he would never have sent me that job, and I wouldn't be working today. So a lot of it was getting out there and meeting people.
I guess, again, all the same here. I was applying online a lot. I think I was, in the beginning, behind the computer more than I was out in the community. And, you know, I had interviews, I think, online as well. You know, you answer all these questions, and I guess that was your interview. I did get one interview from online. Majority of the interviews that I had was, I did come to the career conference here last year, and I had a few interviews from speaking with the employers here. So that was, you know, even if it was somebody too, if you don't even want to be part of their organization, just having that experience interviewing, that helped me graciously in that sense of getting that practice and talking to people face to face. So I think for me, I had to build up my confidence again. So coming to events like this helped me through the process. You know, finding out about this job, I actually was at Rochester Works looking at the hot jobs, and a position was shown there for the First Impressions team leader. I had approached actually one of the facilitators, and you know, she said I would be great for this position. Again, I had to look at it using my transferable skills. I was a retail store manager, but I had, you know, that's customer service. So, you know, customer service is what I got into with this organization. And that's where I'm here today.
I learned a couple of things early on in my networking. The first one, when you network with someone, you're always looking for what tips they can give you. And so after like the 5th meeting where the tip was, you should get on LinkedIn, I thought, well, I got to get on LinkedIn so they can stop giving me that tip and I'll get other ones. So I did go on LinkedIn. And then the second thing I heard was my paperwork didn't demonstrate my personality, so that I should make sure that I met people. So when I started to look in the nonprofit arena, I would go into LinkedIn or see if the people I was meeting with or if someone from that organization was on site, and I didn't see much social networking. Or if I found the person who ran the nonprofit, they were not accepting new links, or they might have 1 or 2 connections. And so I made a decision that while I was up there, that wasn't going to be my main focus. And I also, because my background was so diverse, I didn't find much when I would search online. So I connected with enough people who loved being online and looking at every job that they'd send them to me. So I really, I was really pretty blessed in the way it came about. And I probably only applied for 10 jobs. And when I did, I really went after it because I wasn't going to spend time applying for something that wasn't a fit. And it was pretty easy because most jobs are very cookie cutter. You know, you do this, you do that, you're an accountant, and that wasn't me. So, so I had to go about it a little bit differently.
I have a flip side, and I don't agree that you should be totally digital. However, the job that I'm currently in, I landed through LinkedIn. The fact that I put together a website attracted people to me. So the attraction via LinkedIn or the website also made those connections to a point where they could be personal. Pick up the phone, call the individual, have a conversation, meet over coffee. I think that's how I met Chris, really. But so there's the flip side. So you can be digital, and that can also draw to the personal as well. I happen to be really focusing on my certification when this particular job came along on LinkedIn. And I just wrote back a little note saying, is there somebody I can talk to for more information about this? And my manager called me, who's my current manager. And we had a nice conversation. Then next thing, one thing led to another, and I was interviewing the following week.
Any last questions for the group? I guess I'll conclude with this question, and I assume everyone in here is going to find their success soon. So I would love for you to share, the feeling that you had and what they should expect when you agree and sign the dotted line.
Boy, what a loaded question. It's exciting. And I must say that when you go into a position, you really don't know what you're getting into from the interviewing perspective. So it's not until you get there, you can fall in love once you get in there. I don't know. I was elated. I remember sitting in Rochester Works in a session with, I think it was Klein Steel. My phone was going off, and I just couldn't answer it. But it was the best thing since sliced bread after a while of nothing, of nothing. So I don't know. It's exciting.
I had found out about the job I ended up getting in May and was not offered the job till early November. And so I knew it was a perfect job, but in the meantime had to keep going with everything else. So I really tempered my oh, this is it kind of excitement. And when they offered it to me, like, I started the next Monday. So it was very short-lived, woohoo, and off we go and into it. But I think the trick in that instance is to not put all your eggs in one basket. And to know that if that's what you want, to continue networking in a way that you'll be even more successful in that position, or find something similar in case it doesn't work out.
I guess for myself, I noticed when I started getting, confident as it got closer to opportunities, each opportunity that was coming, and then to get interviewed, that was another excitement for me. And then to finally get a position and landing that position, again, it was very exciting, nervous as well to start something you have been out, for over 8 months, and but you fall right into it.
I have to say that it's funny at work because people complain about things that I think are really little things that they don't bother me anymore,
Your perspective changes.
Oh yeah, people complain about stuff and I'm like, geez, that doesn't bother me, But you have to, I try and hold it to myself because I don't want to be too Pollyanna or positive. It's just that once you're working, there's a lot of things. First of all, I still like the job. People will ask me, well, what do you think now? Because I've been there since the middle. Oh, I love this job. I'm like, really? So I don't know why. I think for me, working is something that I love to do. I couldn't picture myself not working. I know it was really hard on myself when I wasn't working. When you don't have a job in our society, so much of who you are, first thing people ask you is, what do you do, right? Now I answer that question differently than I used to. It used to be about what company I worked at. Now it's about who I am, what my skill sets are, okay? It was great. It was great to get the job offer. The times when I did not get the job offer, I didn't let those stop me. Just keep going, stay positive, because your job is out there, it'll come.
I know for me, I've been out for 11 months before I accepted a contract job. And even though I had spoken with some contract agencies, it really wasn't what I wanted to do. You don't have benefits unless you buy into them, that sort of thing. And but after 11 months of search, of hard, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week of job search, I had learned a lot of stuff. I learned a lot of things about self-promotion and marketing, online presence, search engine optimization. That's all great stuff to market yourself, but my actual job skills were languishing. And so for me, when I landed that contract job, even though it was at 20% less than I used to make, and I had to drive an hour each way to get to it, I was ecstatic because I was actually using my abilities, my job skills again. I felt like a productive member of society. And then when ultimately I received a direct hire offer from Harris, then I was on top of the world, because now I'm not paying hundreds of dollars a month for insurance or thousands, whatever it was. It was a lot. So yeah, in some respects, it's sort of an obvious question, isn't it? We were all ecstatic.
Good answer. Good.
I might be a little bit different than you, but yes, I was very glad to land this position. But the one thing that I realized in the 15 months that I was looking was that I didn't have a good work-life balance, and I really was sort of disappointed to have to give up some of the things that I had done while I was job searching. And I'm finding now that I'm back into the work mode, and I'm working a lot of hours. I'm in accounting, and this is a busy time of year, and there's sometimes it's seasonal, and you have to do that, and that's not the problem. But what I am finding out is that I miss that balance, and I didn't realize I'd ever had a balance before. So I think that's what's really important, and that's what I've sort of struggled with, being back to work. I'm very glad from a financial standpoint that I'm back working, and I do love what I'm doing, but I really think you need to focus on that. You need to decide what's really important and how to make the time to do that. And I think then wherever you land, you're going to be successful at, because you're going to be happy with your life. You're not just going to be happy with work, but you're going to be happy with your life, and that's going to translate when you're there, and it's going to translate when you're not. And I think that's what's really important for everybody to remember. It's you can't be panicked and take something just for the sake of taking it. You really have to find what's going to make you happy.
Thank you, and I lied. There's one more question, because Annie's going to take me down if I don't allow it to happen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. It's great to hear the conversation. I just have a question. There's aha moments for everybody. Can you believe they can't hear me? There's aha moments for everybody. And so my question to the panel is, we all have these difficult learnings. What was the thing that really challenged you the most? What was the thing that you really needed to get? I have a saying that says, success begins outside your comfort zone. So for each one of you, that comfort zone is going to be different. So maybe you would share with us maybe some of the learnings that you had, how you got out of your comfort zone, as a way to help everybody else understand that this isn't an easy process. This is an emotional process. And I love what I'm hearing about the fact that just what you were saying, Kelly, it's not really just about the job. It's also about liking where you are, being where you are. So if you could talk about maybe what the biggest learning and challenge was for you and how you overcame that would help me.
I said earlier, the biggest challenge I had was with networking and getting out there. I'm not the most social. I'm like Chris, I'm probably an introvert, and I really had trouble with that. But I found some groups that were really helpful, that sort of helped me along the way. They didn't force me to do it, but I felt like I had an obligation to them, that if I made a promise that I would meet somebody at a networking event, then I had to do it. It was good for myself, but I didn't want to let the other person down because they were taking their time to help me. So that really what helped me a lot, was to find that good support and to be able to say, I'm doing this to help myself, I'm doing it to help someone else. And that's really what came down to when I started going to all the different events and doing more things and becoming more comfortable being social, even though that's not my first choice of doing something.
Yeah, I think I sort of answered this already earlier from the standpoint that for me, the networking, the going out and meeting all these people that I didn't know, I've historically attended monthly engineering society meetings, but it's the same engineering societies. The membership is pretty much the same. So you see the same people every month. And going out to like Digital Rochester and August group events, and job fairs, and introducing myself to the person in the line in front of me and the person behind, that was all new territory for me. Networking can be, it wasn't a natural thing for me, but it can be learned. I learned a lot from the class I took on networking and reading through the book, Make Your Contacts Count. It's a great book, I recommend it. Yeah, I can tell you when I got laid off in February '09, I had about 80 LinkedIn connections, and probably half of those were at the company I worked at. And in less than 12 months after that, I was breaking 800. And I had met all but a dozen of those people face to face here in Rochester at events. So, for people who say, oh, I only have 20 connections, I can't get connections, blah, blah, blah. Not true. Go to 1 or 2 events a week. You can meet 5 to 10 new people a week. It's easy to add 20 to 40 people a month as LinkedIn connections that you have met face to face.
I would say managing my expectations was my big learning. When I first started, I expected people to respond to my email or to return my phone call. And if you're in job search and you want something, you do not expect the return email and the return phone call, and don't read anything into it. People are busy. Maybe they just forgot. If you want to connect to somebody, you take the responsibility, and you stay positive and just keep connecting. The ownership is on you, really, when you're networking. And I think that's true with networking as well. What I thought a network was different before I was in job search than afterward. Now, if I've met somebody and they're interested, or I'm interested in them, as long as I can put a kind of like a face to a name, I'm happy to connect with people and try and help them. So I would say the biggest thing was managing my expectations. Sometimes I go to a networking meeting and it'd be at a company that I would really like to have a job at. My expectations were unrealistic. I was just making a connection. I wasn't going to walk out with a job, but you have to really think about that. So that was my big learning of my job search, was managing my expectations, and that helped me manage the emotional ups and downs as well.
Yeah, just a quick comment. For networking, it's give to get. Yeah. Networking is not a one-way street. Absolutely. We're all in job search. I was, you are. You're looking for help in your search. You'll get more help if you help others in their search, right? People remember. People you've helped out, they remember. So.
I will say in my networking meetings, I tried to be helpful and stop worrying about what could I get. I think I learned that from Chris too. So, what Chris says is very valuable. You have to really think about the presence that you have and how you can help others. And if you're helping others, you're helping yourself as well.
So we're all kind of saying the same things about networking. But again, that was a challenge for me. And towards the end, I said, this is practice. Meeting people, you need to get out there. I had to force myself to do it. As well as, having informational meetings with an employer. That was something that even allowed me to know, do I even want to be part of this organization? And I guess just kind of all the same things that we're saying, just practice and get out there.
My biggest challenge was to be able to define myself in a way that I could differentiate myself. And I was really frustrated with, we'd go around the room at a networking event and I'd sound like 5 other people in the room, and yet I knew that I had different experience. So I found a tool, it's called StrengthsFinder. And it's a very simple tool. It has 34 strengths, and when you take the little assessment, it gives you your top 5. And so my 5 resonated with me so much and differentiated me that I actually created a 1-pager that was part of my resume package. Because when you look at your strengths, 3 might be common to a lot of other people, but there are other things that are going to be better. And I did make a mistake on my first job after my job search. I was out for 15 months, took a job for 10 months, and it was not a fit. Then I was out again for 15 months, but I knew what I wanted, created this tool, and when I went in to interview with the person who I now work for, he had on the top of my resume stack this document. And so I knew and he knew that the skills I was bringing to the table were the right ones, and I knew I was going to be able to use the ones that I'm best at and not be working in an environment where every weekend you're trying to stay ahead of it and getting ready to go to work because you're just not the right fit. So StrengthsFinder, it's a $20 book. You scratch off at the back and take this assessment online, and a beautiful tool comes out, and I found it very useful.
I guess in my case, it was a matter of dealing with rejection. Over and over again, it's hard, and you just have to. What I had to do is I had to keep reminding myself this is a bad time. This is a bad time for everybody. I'm not the only one out there that's getting rejected. There's so many fish in the sea to choose from. So why, what would make me better the next time I were to go to an interview? What did I do that probably turned the person off? Or I try to analyze it to the point where I didn't drive myself nuts, because that's not productive either. And I think it was. I know after time, the longer you are out of a job, the more, lack of confidence. You lack confidence more and more. And it's, again, staying positive and getting your head around that, doing things that you're gonna feel good about and be productive in working with other individuals in an environment. I don't mean employment, but in organizations that are employed and that keep you upbeat.
Thank you so much. I think we owe him a round of applause. Thank you again for taking time from your work to come here and share your unique perspectives on job search. Thank you very much.